This video will go over the processes covered in the first image plot workshop. We'll log into the dev server using Terminal, download a video from YouTube, process it into images, create the comma-separated file for use in image plot, and then open up ImageJ and image plot and plot our images using an increasing x value and a random y value. Future videos will cover how to use image plot and ImageJ to analyze the images and then plot based on that analysis. So let's begin. You'll want to open up Terminal on your Mac or a program like PuTTY on your PC, and you're going to want to SSH into the dev.cal.msu.edu server. So I'm going to type SSH, my NetID at dev.cal.msu.edu. It's going to prompt me for a password, which is my own NetID password, and then it'll get me into the server. If this is the first time that you're logging into the server, it may ask you if you want to trust the connection, and you'll need to type yes. Once we're in here, we can use the command ls to list the contents of the directory. You can see here I have a number of files that are on the left side that are sh files. Those are my batch files that I can use to run videos with. You can also see over here I have some zip files. Those are in red. I have some folders which are in blue, and I have some videos already down here which are in pink. So I'm going to clean up my directory a little bit, and so I'm going to use the rm command, which is to remove something, and I'm going to remove all of the videos that are in here. And so the way that I'm typing these so quickly is I'm typing the first two characters of the file name, in this case SI, and hitting the tab key, and that will fill in the rest of it for me. And so I've now typed all 4 of my videos here, and I hit enter. And in typical Linux fashion, it doesn't do anything if the command worked. And so it just goes back to a command prompt, and if I type ls again, you'll see now I don't have the pink files in there. So the first thing we're going to do is download a new file. And we're going to download that file by using the command youtube-dl. And youtube-dl will pull our YouTube video down in an MP4 format for us. So I'm going to bump over here to YouTube, and we'll use the standard video that we used here in the workshop of These Go to 11 from Spinal Tap, and you'll copy the YouTube link and then go back into Terminal, and when you type it in here, you'll type YouTube DL, as I already have, and then you'll paste in your YouTube video link, and you can hit enter. It's important, before I hit enter, important to note, if you had more than one video that you wanted to download at a time, you can simply separate the YouTube links by a space, and it will download all of them separately. So I'm going to hit enter, and you'll see that it's doing a little bit of work here, and this one was quite a small video, so it did it really quickly, but it downloaded my 2.37 megabytes and went back to the prompt. So now if I ls, you'll see over here on the right, I have These Go to 11, blah, blah, blah. Now, sometimes the file name that YouTube gives it is a little cumbersome for what you want. So for me, I'm going to rename this. And so to rename it, I'm going to use the command mv space, and then I'm going to type in the current file name, again using tab to finish it out after the first 2 characters. And now I'm going to type the new file name. Underscores are perfectly acceptable to use in file names, and they help to space out words if you want to be able to read it a little bit more easily. And make sure that you put an MP4 on the end here and hit enter. And then we'll ls again, and you'll see that this now changed from these go to 11.mpeg and then a random set of numbers and letters now to the file name that I just had it. So these go to 11.mp4. Now, you have a series in here of your files, and I'm just going to enter down here and clear some stuff off the screen. Alright, so now that I've created some space for myself, I'm going to run one of these batch files up in the top here. And the batch file I'm going to run for this one is batch_15fps.sh. And that's going to pull 15 frames per second for me from my video. So I'm going to say /, and then I'm going to type in batch_15fps.sh. I'm going to hit enter. So now you'll see down at the bottom here it's encoding. It did it very quickly because this is a small file. And now I'll see if I go into my images folder. So if I type ls again, you'll see that I have an images folder here, and you guys all should have an images folder as well. If you don't, you're going to need to create one before you can run the batch.sh file. So I'll change directory into the images folder. So I'll say cd space images, and you'll see in your prompt that it's now changed, and I'll ls here, and now you'll see that I have a large number of folders in here from a bunch of different videos that I've played with. But we have one down here called thesegoto11.mp4, which is the folder that I just exported my files to. So this folder that it creates matches exactly the file name of the video that you have in the main directory. I should also note that if you have 15 files in this main directory and you run the batch file, it will process all of the files. So if you don't want to do every file that's in there, you're going to want to move them out to another folder before you've gone ahead and run the batch file. So I'm now going to change directory again and go into the thesegoto11.mp4 directory, and if I type ls in here, you'll see I get a very large amount of image files. So these are the files that it generated at 15 frames per second. I believe, if we go back over here to YouTube, we can see this is a 54-second video. So there are about 800 image files that are created in here. So if we go back, we'll see now we have all those. Now, the next step in the process is to create the CSV file that we needed for this. And in your main home directory, there's a file called createcsv.sh. And that file will, when you run it in a directory with images, will loop through the directory and create a comma-separated file that has all of the image names in it, auto-incrementing 1 through whatever number of images there are, and also generating a random y value. And this is for our initial plots where we have an incrementing x value and a random y value between 1 and 50. That's what we use. That's what's going to generate a file for us to use. In future work with ImagePlot, this file will be the basis for you to add other analysis information to your file. So in order to run that from this directory, so we don't have to keep copying it into the directory, I'm going to use a slightly different command, but you'll see that it's similar. It's going to be tilde / and then createcsv.sh. So instead of the // which is what you use when the file that you're running is in the directory you're in, tilde / tells it to go to your home directory and run a file that's there. So I'm going to click on this, and it looks like it's doing nothing for a minute and then returns back here to our prompt. If I ls now, you'll see down in the very bottom right corner there's an output.csv file, and we'll download that in a few minutes and take a look at it. So next step in the process, you're going to zip these files up. And so to zip them up, you're going to simply type the zip command, space, name of the archive, go to 11, I'm going to call it, and then another space, and then now I'm going to say ***. And that's going to tell it to get every single file that's in this folder and zip it into a file called goto11.zip. And so when I hit enter, you'll see it will crank through it. If you have a video file that has a lot more image files, this might take a little bit longer, and that's totally okay. Also, previously when we ran the create CSV file, if you have a file with a whole lot of images in it, it might take 3 to 5 minutes to run. That's okay. It's still working as long as you see the little flashing cursor. So just leave it be and know that it will be doing its thing. So if I ls again now, and then we scroll up a little bit to the top, you'll see I've got a go to 11.zip, a red file here. Okay, now's when you're going to want to open CyberDuck. And so I've pulled up CyberDuck here, and I'm going to open my connection in CyberDuck. I'm going to make it an SFTP connection. The server is dev.cal.msu.edu, and your username is your NetID, and the password is your NetID password. Now CyberDuck is going to make another connection to the server, and this one is going to be a connection where we can drag and drop files. So when I connect, you'll see that I've got everything in here. I can go into images, and then into the these go to 11.mp4 folder, and my zip file is right here. And you can see if we look over here into terminal, which is sitting behind it, it's the same thing here as it is over here. Go to 11.zip is our file. That one is a 4.6 megabyte file. This will take us only a few seconds to download on a campus connection. If we were to download each of these images individually, it would take our computer and the server quite a long time to do it because it needs to constantly open and close the file connections. So zipping it up helps us to work much more quickly than we'd be able to otherwise. So I'm going to pull up my Finder here, and I've created an image plot folder, and I'm going to just drag and drop my zip file down there. The download's complete, and I'm going to double click it here on my desktop, and now that folder has extracted, and if I look in it, it has my files. If I scroll all the way down, you can see that my math was indeed correct. There are 813 images and an output.csv file. And this output.csv file, if I double click it, it's going to open Excel. It's going to take me a second here to fit it to the window for you. But you can see here that it's now created an Excel file where I have my file name on the top row here, file name, and you're going to want to change this as well, file name, x-axis in the B column, and y-axis in the C column. So one thing that you'll note is the way that it generates the CSV file doesn't seem to be in the order that we want it to be in. And so the easiest way to get it into the order is to click this little box here between the 1 and the A. That's going to select everything in the document. We're going to go up to Data and Sort, and then we're going to tell it to sort by the x-axis, smallest to largest. And so what that's going to do when I hit OK is it's going to sort our file so that image 1 is the first one and image 813 is the last one. And you'll notice here in the y-axis these are random numbers generated between 1 and 50. So I'm going to make sure that I save this file, and when it prompts you that the workbook contains features that won't work or may be removed, you can say yes, continue, that's okay, because you want it to remain the CSV file for use with ImagePlot. Alright, so now we're ready to launch ImageJ and do our ImagePlot work. So you want to make sure that you've downloaded ImageJ before you start the process, and the link to download ImageJ is in the instruction sheet. You're also going to want to make sure that you're running ImageJ version 1.48 as of this video making on February 26, 2015. There may be newer versions in the future, but 1.48 works properly. 1.47 does not seem to work properly, so make sure you're running ImageJ 1.48. So once we've run ImageJ, up in the top, there is a menu option called Plugins, and from from plugins, there's a submenu called macros, and then an option called run. So you're going to want to go in and choose that. You're already going to have downloaded your imageplot.txt file. So you're going to want to run it from there. So I'm going to click on it, open, and that's going to bring up imageplot. So for the first time that I'm going to run it right now, I'm going to say open the data, open the images, and display it during rendering is totally fine because then we know that it's working. So I'm going to press OK. And then from here, I'm going to go into my Go to 11 folder. I'm going to pay attention right up here in the top, data file, select a tab delimited text file. It says tab delimited, comma separated is totally fine. So once you go in here with your tab delimited file, or your comma separated file, you're going to select it and hit open. Now, this gets somewhat confusing to some people because it's now prompting you again to find the folder with the image files in it. So just make sure that you're paying attention to what's up at the top. So now I'm going to go into the Go to 11 here, where my image files are. I'm going to choose. Next up is mapping our columns. So remember how we changed in our Excel document so that we had file name, x-axis, and y-axis here. So now that's mapped right onto here. In this example, it autofills the columns for us. In an example where we might have other data associated with the images, you're going to be able to pull down this list and choose from a larger selection. So this is fine for us, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the file name. So we're going to hit OK, and it's going to start plotting. So ImageJ is now plotting our image. You can see it's constantly moving slightly forward in the x-axis, and it's placing the images randomly on the y-axis. This will take a couple of minutes to run. If you have a lot of images, it might take a couple hours to run. So at this point, you just need to let the computer do its thing. So a lot of times I run this sort of thing when I leave for the night so that it runs while I'm gone and not needing my computer for other things. However, you can go off and check email and other things if you need to while it's doing it. So now our plot has just about finished, and you can see that it's plotted all the way across the screen on randomly from 1 to 50 in the Y. And you can see that with a few images like this, with only 813 images, it didn't actually plot a very dense or tight plot. So we might look in the future, if we were to do this, at lowering the Y value by quite a bit and adjusting the X value over as well to create a smaller, tighter plot. Or we could capture at a much higher frame rate. Usually videos that are a few minutes or longer are a lot easier to plot as a dense plot like this. As an example of time, I plotted a 12-minute video before, and that took about 45 to 50 minutes to plot fully across my screen. So from here, you would just go ahead and save, and it will save as a TIFF image, and you can name it whatever. Go to 11 final, and I'll save this. And now I'm all ready to do my next plot.